Welcome to this deep dive. We're always trying to find, shortcuts to being well-informed. And today, we've got a really interesting one. We're exploring Hindi literature through a specific podcast.
Ah, right. Kitab Gar.
Exactly. It translates to bookhouse, which is quite lovely, I think.
It is.
Think of this as a curated way into this whole world of rich stories, different layers of meaning.
And all the diverse voices in Hindi literature.
Yeah, connecting you to something that feels, I don't know, timeless, but also really personal.
And what jumps out immediately with Kitab Gar is how immersive it is. It's not just like dry analysis. They weave the literature together with Indian classical music.
Oh, interesting. So that creates a specific kind of feel.
Definitely. It gives it this nostalgic quality, really engaging. It's like you're invited into this personal literary space.
Okay, I see. So our mission here with this deep dive is basically to pull out the key things from Kitab Gar, just the highlights, so you can quickly figure out if it's, something you'd be interested in for getting up to speed on Hindi literature.
Getting those aha moments without having to wade through everything.
Exactly. Giving you the essence.
And it's worth saying, Kitab Gar covers a lot of ground. It isn't just like one type of book.
Right. What kind of range are we talking about?
Well, everything from ancient epics, the real foundational stories, all the way up to contemporary novels, poetry.
So really current stuff, too.
Yeah, and even memoirs. Sometimes they explore how literature connects with things like geopolitics. It's pretty broad.
So it's more than just talking about the plots.
Oh, much more. They really get into the authors, what shaped them, what their inspirations were.
And I heard they draw connections, too,
Mm.
between older works and newer ones.
Yes, they do that really well.
Yeah.
Showing how themes from the past kind of echo in the present. It makes it feel very relevant.
Right. And there's something about the host's voice, too, isn't there? I read that mentioned a few times.
Absolutely. People describe it as deep, calming, almost poetic, actually. It helps create this atmosphere, like you said, a lovingly curated literary attic.
A literary gathering place. That's a nice image.
It fits. And it kind of mirrors what we try to do here, celebrating voices and stories.
Okay, well, let's get into some specifics then. To give people a real taste, we picked out 3 episodes that sounded like good starting points.
Sounds good.
First up, there's one called Kuch Ish Kiya Kuch Kam Kiya.
Ah, yes. Piyush Mishra's poetry collection. He's a fascinating figure.
How so? What's his background?
Well, he's not just a poet. He's also, quite well known as an actor, a lyricist, especially in Bollywood. And he has deep roots in theater.
Wow, okay. So, pretty multi-talented.
Very. And you wonder how that feeds into his poetry, right? What kind of style does that produce?
Well, the descriptions I saw called it raw, restless, unfiltered, very direct.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It suggests a voice that doesn't, hold back much.
And interestingly, the episode apparently contrasts his style with Mahadevi Verma's.
Oh, that's a great
So
comparison.
what does that tell us about the poetry itself?
Well, it really highlights the range within Hindi poetry. It's not just one thing. You get Mishra's very visceral, almost edgy kind of impact.
Right.
And then you have Verma style, which is often seen as more lyrical, maybe gentler, more flowing.
So different ways of using the language, different emotional textures.
Exactly. It shows the sheer possibility within the form.
So who would you say this episode is for then?
Well, if you, listening, appreciate verses that have a bit of an edge, something maybe a bit challenging or unconventional, then I think checking out Piyush Mishra through this episode would be a really good move.
Okay, good pointer. Let's move to the second one we picked out. It focuses on a book called Ampali by Geetashri.
Right. Historical fiction, but the discussion sounds very current.
Yeah, that's what intrigued me. How does an episode about historical fiction feel so relevant today?
It seems they use the main character, Ampali, who's this really powerful female figure. They use her story to explore these quite timeless themes. Things like agency, a woman's ability to make her own choices.
Okay.
And also ideas around femininity and how ancient myths still sort of echo and get reshaped in modern society.
So it connects the historical setting to today's conversations about gender and power.
Precisely. It sounds like a really layered conversation, blending the history with contemporary issues.
So if you enjoy stories with like a real depth,
Yeah, depth and that intersection of history, myth, and modern concerns, especially around female characters and narratives, this sounds like a really rewarding listen.
got it. Okay, third example. This one's a bit different. It's a conversation with an author, Manisha Kulshrestha.
Ah, yes, she's a very acclaimed Hindi writer. These author interviews can be fantastic.
What do they offer typically? What kind of insight?
Usually you get a really intimate, often quite inspiring peek behind the curtain, into the writer's process and journey.
So less about analyzing one specific text, more about the creator.
Exactly. In this one, Kulshrestha apparently talks about some of her well-loved books like Malaka, Shaltanjika, and Panchkanya.
Right, I saw those mentioned.
Yeah. But the core seems to be her sharing her inspirations, her sort of personal philosophies that shape her characters and stories.
So where the ideas come from.
Yeah, and how narratives get sculpted from, you know, lived experience, observation, personal beliefs. It really illustrates how characters come alive.
That sounds fascinating for anyone interested in, well, the creative process itself.
Absolutely. If you're curious about how stories are made, why authors make certain choices, or just the personal side of writing, this kind of episode would be perfect.
Okay, great. So just to sort of wrap up our thoughts on Kitab Gar, it seems like a really valuable resource for exploring Hindi literature across the board, different genres, different periods.
Definitely. And that combination of thoughtful discussion with the Indian classical music backdrop really does create a unique atmosphere. It's quite immersive.
Right. Not just informative, but atmospheric too.
And for you listening, it offers a way to dive into this world pretty deeply, but also engagingly. You're getting more than just plot points. You're getting insights into style, themes, authors.
Those aha moments we talked about.
Exactly. Without it feeling like, heavy academic work, it's accessible.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. Consider this. How might exploring stories from a completely different language, a different cultural context, like Hindi literature, through something like Kitab Gar?
How might that change your perspective?
Yeah, how could it enrich your understanding of just
Yeah.
the sheer variety of human experience out there?
It's definitely something to think about. Maybe an invitation to explore storytelling beyond what you usually encounter.